Okay, welcome. Accelerated Math Objectives, Standard Deviation. Standard deviation, something that a lot of people have a hard time explaining, but basically standard deviation is how far is the data spread out from the mean. And this is kind of a standard bell curve. I'm just throwing some data in here. This would be my mean if I calculated it, and it's just saying how far from the mean on average are my data points. And that's all standard deviation is. It's basically how spread out. This one has a standard deviation of, we'll call it, I'm going to call it 5 units. If I had another graph and it looked more like this, and that one, the standard deviation might be, with the mean right here, the standard deviation might be 1 or 2 or something like that. And if I had one more graph where it was real spread out like that, then the standard deviation might be 10 or something like that. So it's just how far out is the data, how spread out is it. Find the population standard deviation, and there's the symbol we want to watch. That's the one you're going to see on your calculator for this data set. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 data values, and I've preloaded those into my calculator. I used the TI 30XS multi-view. This one's not really functional in here, but I just wanted to show you that I went to the data function and I put in my data values into list 1, all of those, and then I did second stat. That's that same data key, second stat, and it gave me an option for one variable stats, which is what I'm doing, and I chose the list that I put the data into. Normally it's going to be L1. The frequency, FRQ, is going to be 1, and then I'm going to calculate, and it's going to give me quite a few values. Number 1 shows up. Mine says n is equal to 9. That's just how many data values are there. Number 2, it says x bar equals 12. Well, that's the mean. For this particular thing, I didn't need that. Number 3, it says a large S and then a little x, and it has 5.567764, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that one is called the sample standard deviation. All right, we're going to need to differentiate between that and number 4. Number 4, you will notice that it has the little Greek symbol for standard deviation, and it has 5.249, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's the one I'm looking for. This is called the population standard deviation, and you're going to see the accelerated math ask those two questions, population versus sample. And in a quick nutshell, population means the entire population was surveyed or something like that. The most common example is the U.S. Census is a population because it's the entire population, versus if I went to my school and I wanted to know something about the students, but I went to my individual classroom and did a sample of those students. Well, the standard deviation of a sample is slightly different than the standard deviation of the population. Okay, and there's some tasks that we're going to go through to basically understand why that is, but for now I think you just need to know to choose the right one at the right time. So this one is asking for the population, and like I said, it's 5.249, 5.249 rounded to this. You'll notice that the 5.561, well, no, they didn't put it on here. Okay, a lot of times you'll see that one listed because they're trying to get you to choose that one. I don't know if they're trying, but anyway, so we're going with A. Next, now this one, right off the bat, sample. Okay, so sample standard deviation, so we are going to use number 3 on our list feature, and we're looking for sample standard deviation, and I'm going to pull that in. I put these numbers already into my list, so I entered it with the data key, and then I did second data for one variable stats. I chose the correct list, the frequency of 1, and my sample standard deviation says 5.612, 5.61, okay, rounded right there. All right. Now, going to this last one, quite a few values, so I had to enter all these things into my list. I went ahead and preloaded those, and I'm going to that. I'm doing, again, I did data, I entered them. I'm doing second stat with the calculator, one variable statistics. I'm going to the right list and frequency of 1, and I'm going to look out for, what are they asking for? Sample standard deviations. So I'm looking for number 3 in my calculator labeled as SX, and mine has 11.105. It's C. Alright. And now I want to emphasize that this accelerated math is going through kind of the motions of putting it into the calculator, and you're really just plopping out some values. You didn't have to hand calculate these. We also need to make sure we understand what standard deviation means. Accelerated math is not going to test your knowledge of what does it mean, and how's that, when do you use standard deviation, when do you use mean, when do you use mode, median, and those kind of things. So make sure you're listening in class for that component of it. Thank you. Bye.